5, 4, 3, 2.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Jeranism Monday Night Raw, the current reigning and defending #1 show on truthfrequencyradio.com between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m. Pacific, that's 9 to 11 Eastern, and simulcasting live on the Jeranism YouTube channel for Hour 1, and then the Ginger Sugar Bush 905 channel for Hour 2. I'm your host, Jaren from Jeranism, and my co-host for the next 2 hours is the great, the powerful David Avocado Second Answer Weiss. David, how are things in the land of dearth?
Everything is just fine. It's perfect. It's a wonderful day.
I'd like to think that. I'm stressing out about the audio here, but I think it might be okay.
You sound good. I'm hearing a buzz in the background.
Me too, and I hear like when the commercials are on, I can hear it clipping. I don't know. Something happened. Probably the same thing that happened to your podcast.
Oh, no, that was horrible.
Oh, it does something different.
My co-host sounded very strange, too, right?
He did. I'm glad that he's here joining us so we can clear that up, why he sounded so funny. He is with us, joining us, I hope. On the line is Matt Long from flatworth.com. Matt, are you there?
I am here.
See, that sounds
it's
brutal.
Matt.
Yes,
Matt,
I tell you what.
Matt is the problem. Matt, you are so hot. Not that way. Your microphone is hot.
Yeah, get your mic out of your mouth.
Is that better?
Just whisper to us.
Is that better?
That sounds better. No,
Yes.
That sounds a little better.
Okay.
Hopefully things on the YouTube side are okay. I don't know if that's true or not. If anybody thinks that it's not okay, please let us know. Please tell us that the audio is bad. But as far as I can tell, I think we're ready to go.
I tell you what, after that intro, I'm ready to step up to the plate and slam dunk a touchdown.
Beautiful.
There you go. Much better.
Yeah, that sounded great. I thought, why not a tennis euphemism? What was that?
I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah, there's some other sports.
I stole that one from someone else, so I guess if I was making one, maybe I'd throw in, an ace of some kind.
Can I ask you a tennis-related question?
Please.
Where did the scoring system come from?
It came from NASA. It was,
Sounds like a NASA.
Basically,
like a NASA
what
product.
happened was that they came up with a system, and the numbers didn't work, so they actually added more numbers to it, and then added more numbers to those. That's how they got like the 15, 30, 40. It basically started as a theory that built upon theory that built upon theory, and then you end up with this crazy number system that really makes no sense at all.
It sounds about right. Sounds like it was right up NASA's alley then.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, I'm good on that. I don't know if you guys checked out Globebusters yesterday. It was a Globebuster-ish show because we didn't have Bob with us. He was under the weather. He'll be back next week. So for everyone who needs their Bob fix, needs their Globebuster fix, make sure you check out Globebusters. That'll be next Sunday at 12 noon Pacific. But the show was really good, except for I just found out, thanks to the great and powerful Mitchell from Australia, who noted me to an error that I made, or at least I didn't even notice. I was pointing out yesterday that the AE map was back on the website flatearthplane.com. I was very excited about it. It almost seemed too good to be true because I was like, well, man, here's this map back that we were all saying was gone, and here it is, and it's working in all its glory. He sent me a Skype message today saying, does it work for any other day other than August the 4th, 2018? I'm like, what are you talking about? So I go back to the site, and sure enough, yesterday when I was playing with it and showing people the wins, that wins was for August the 4th, 2018. And if you try and change the date going forward or backward, it says no data. Womp, 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 whoop-oo. So that's my bad. I thought that he had set it up, whoever this flatearthplane.com website owner is. I thought that he had said all he did was basically make the AE map work, but it's not current. It's not up to date. It's not real time. I think I mentioned on the show that it updates every 3 hours, which is what it says. But that is not the case. You can't change it away from the date of August 4th, 2018. So Kind of sad, huh?
It's always Mitchell spoiling the fun.
He always spoils the fun.
Hey, speaking of Mitchell and speaking of Australia, I have a question. If anyone is in the chat that lives in New Zealand, could you please let me know if your app is showing the proper location and weather in New Zealand? Because I am having somebody's having an issue and I just can't wrap my head around it.
I feel like New Zealand is always a problem on weather-related apps.
Yeah.
I
don't know why.
What did that have to do with Mitchell from Australia?
Mitch is from Australia. Australia and New Zealand are the same thing, aren't they?
Yeah, same landmass. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, close. Close enough.
Close. So anyway,
I was in Australia once, and I went to New Zealand, so it's the same place.
Did you fly there, or did you take a boat?
I flew.
All right. I wonder what that boat ride is. Do you know how long that is? A few hours, I guess. I don't know. Never done it myself. But it is pretty upsetting about this, AE map from the old Earth.nullschool website that, I was excited. I thought it was back, and now it doesn't look like it's back. I mean, you can show people at least the weather patterns if you want to. Again, go to flatearthplane.com. You can see all the little weather patterns, but just know that it's not up to date. It is from August of 2018. So
Hey,
I'm pretty
Jaron,
excited.
before you go down your extensive agenda, I have a question about Coriolis.
Okay.
The official Coriolis thing, and I know it affects shots in tennis and stuff, but when you shoot a bullet, there was a video that came out today talking about this long range gun that shoots 25 miles. Is it 25? No, it's not 25 miles.
No way.
It was pretty darn far, and they calculated that with the Coriolis, the bullet should be missed the target by 25 miles. The people that believe in Coriolis, how do they explain my drone being able to stay perfectly still in the air?
You're talking to the wrong person. I don't understand how they explain Coriolis at all. I mean, it doesn't make any sense when you think about the fact that the atmosphere is supposedly moving lockstep with the spinning Earth. So if the atmosphere moves exactly with the spinning Earth as it's moving, then how would there be any Coriolis force at all? There shouldn't be. It's moving with it's the equivalent of the Earth being stationary and the atmosphere being stationary, correct?
You know what? I'm going to open up a bar, and it's going to be called the Progress Bar, where you have a little thing that shows you how long until your order's coming out, and the signature drink is going to be the Coriolis. It's a tequila drink. It's stirred, not shaken.
Oh boy, yeah. I can't grasp the Coriolis effect. I've tried. I've looked into it. For the most part, it just looks to be another one of these excuses or things that they use to explain things. But again, Dave, on Globebusters, I talked about the high moving speeds of the winds above, and we started looking at that video that came out. I think you guys talked about it on your podcast as well, talking about how we have this plasma above us that can be heavily affected by magnetics and electromagnetics. And I think
it spins in different directions with a positive or a negative magnet.
Right. Couldn't that possibly cause some Coriolis-like effects?
Is that known as the ether, maybe? Is that the spinning of the ether?
Could be. Yep. That's what a lot of these guys that used to believe in the ether would say.
It's a possibility that would make something move, like a laser gyro or whatever.
Or a pendulum or something like that.
Ever since Dave said Coriolis, my eyes glazed over, my mouth has been open.
And you're just drooling all over your desk, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's all over the mic now.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. We didn't tell everybody thank you for joining us. I do appreciate that, tuning in to Monday Night Raw, as you always do. Also, I wanted to do something I've never done before. You know how there's the Oscars or the Grammys and all those things? They usually give out these awards like once a year. Well, there is an actual award called a jeranism award. The difference is that it doesn't come out once a year or anything like that. It comes out immediately upon hearing whatever deserves the award. Then I give the award out. So this is going to be the first ever Jeranism Award. It's actually being awarded for the worst flat Earth experiment idea ever. Any guesses on what that might be?
Worst flat Earth experiment ever.
Idea. It was a flat Earth experiment. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast. You might have heard of it before. It's called the Flat Earth Podcast.
You mean the best idea?
No. Hold on.
Prove the flat Earth.
No.
You forgot to say award-winning.
Yeah. Well, it's about to win another award. One of the hosts there deserves this award for the worst flat Earth experiment idea. I heard on that show that somebody with epilepsy should get on a plane with a strobe light to induce an epileptic seizure in order to have a plane land in a off place that might prove the flat Earth.
Wait, we've had all of these emergency landings that happened by chance.
You're not going to try and defend this, are you? Oh,
I'm just saying, there's been all of these emergency landings that happened by chance, and they've been pointed out like, hey, you should have landed over here, but you didn't. You landed over here because the Earth is flat. But there's probably better examples, and you can induce a heart attack.
Oh, boy.
That's dangerous. You can't be like, oh, I feel sick. But a good seizure and a good trigger for a seizure is a strobe light, and they're not life threatening.
Never waste.
That person
boy.
would probably get lots of support after that for stepping up. It's a volunteer thing. I wasn't telling anybody to do it. It was a volunteer.
We would never tell anybody to do that, and we certainly wouldn't do that on this show. But on that Flat Earth show, the Flat Earth podcast, I thought it was award worthy. That's a pretty bad idea, Dave. I have to say
Never
something.
waste.
I'm not saying it's the best idea, but it would be very effective.
Well,
Is there a better episode that we could do? Maybe a seizure isn't the right play. Maybe there's a better play. I don't know.
Well, I thought that the way that his explanation was going, I thought he was going to venture into the land of maybe fake an epileptic seizure.
You can't fake it. That's against the law. But a real epileptic seizure
is that why you went with the
that's
real
legitimate plane landing stuff.
Okay, all right. I still think it deserves the award, but when I heard bring a strobe light onto the plane, I'm like, is this guy kidding me?
I didn't say like bring a knife and jab it in your leg and say you were attacked.
You didn't say that.
I said, a simple seizure.
But if somebody says that, maybe they can.
You can make your phone strobe, can't you?
There you go.
That's true. Yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd give that award away because that was certainly a good idea, Dave. I wanted to bring that up. So, no, I wanted to remind people.
Dave.
You know what? If there's nobody with epilepsy that's willing to step up to it, how about somebody that just goes on a plane and goes, hey, now would be a good time, and walks up and down the aisle with a strobe, seeing if anybody's epileptic.
Oh, boy.
I like that one better.
I would rate that as the second worst flat Earth experiment idea ever. But
Two jeranisms in one night. This is great.
You're getting the awards; they're just running off the table here. No, that's a very interesting idea, but I don't think it's advisable.
All right, bad idea. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, a lot of your ideas are good, but that one I was just I was a little.
The first idea, I'm still standing behind it. It's their own person's decision. If they do it, they're doing it to themselves. They're not hurting anybody except maybe someone's connecting flight.
Is it possible to name it the Weiss experiment? Can we do that?
Yeah, we'll call it the Weiss experiment. That's good.
Great.
So let Dave know about your app issues in New Zealand or Australia. If there's any weather issues, he needs to know that so that he can get with his app developer and fix that, right?
Right. There will be no updates to the app until the 25th because there's a festival going on in India, and they're all partying right now.
I thought that you just told me that like 2 months ago. Do they have one of those
They
festivals?
did.
Like
They love their festivals.
And they just all take like a week off work.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
Yep.
Do we have any of those here?
Spring break?
No.
We got a super chat right now. Somebody, JPBGGB, said New Zealand has a lot of problems. So just pointing that. Thank you for that super chat. Don't think we can disagree with that statement. So I gave away the Jeranism Award. Dave, I also enjoyed on your little podcast. There was a lot of good calls from the speak pipes. I thought there was a lot of good stuff. But, the guy that called in, I'm not sure I remember his name, but he was talking about the intellectual stimulation. Do you remember that?
We had you mean a speak pipe.
Speak
the
pipe.
Intellectual stimulation.
Yeah, he just said, thanks a lot for the intellectual stimulation. I really liked that. I thought that he said... that it was just good for him to hear all this stuff. He was new to flat Earth. It
was like a new guy, and he was like, wow, and it was refreshing to hear somebody have their mind blown and not reject it.
Yeah, I got some interesting letters here. I'll read one. I got to make sure I keep the name out of this one, or is it the other one? Nope, this one. Well, I'm going to keep the name out of both of them. But I'll just read a quick letter that I got to my P.O. box because this is the kind of stuff that I think is interesting, and this person is At least he describes himself as a sea captain. But it says, Jeranism, first of all, I want to extend a very sincere thank you for the work that you've done and put into the cosmology issue. I am a sea captain, professional sailor, and a student of cosmology. Time and location are observed based upon one's position within the revolutionary celestial bodies. The globe theory is best supported by the southern stars, which rotate around a central pole, although no star is present. The very real and in-your-face fact, however, is that the surface of the ocean is flat. And if a curve exists at all, it is in no way near the data we are given by science. This can be proven every day of the week here in Santa Barbara. If you stand on the water's edge and look at the east end of Santa Cruz Island, you will see a gradual tapering off of the land down to the water. The math tells us that there should be 416 feet of curve along that 25-mile distance. Furthermore, all celestial navigation books affirm the fact that the stars are fixed in their relative position to each other. This annihilates the Big Bang Theory. These obvious truths elude knowledgeable people. Knowledge does not mature into wisdom until it is applied. Anyone who applies the math of celestial navigation to a sphere will meet with a type of cognitive dissonance, because in reality it doesn't really make sense. Or if we study the winds of the world, straddling the equator where Earth's spin supposedly exceeds 1,000 miles per hour, we have the doldrums, an area where little to no wind actually blows. I am a lover of God, and I am constantly infusing my heart and mind with love from this plane of existence we live on. I used to be a negative and self-destructive person. Now I am in awe of the beauty in every dewdrop, or the eye of the grackle. I'm not even sure what that word means. The eye of the grackle who visits me daily. Thank you very much for your efforts you have made to open people's eyes. I appreciate your fearless tone. Personally, I know gravity is bullshit. Otherwise, the clouds would drop. Ha ha ha. We live on a beautiful world, so much still to be understood, and yet the deepest truth still comes from the silent study of the stars, the sun, and the moon, those luminaries which all exist as metaphors of the deepest truths of ourselves, which we have yet to learn. God bless. Signed, the person whose name I'm not going to say. So I thought, that mixed with the call that I heard you guys take, it was a speak pipe, but the guy talking about the intellectual stimulation, I think kind of wraps it up into everything. I think that Flat Earth really opens the eyes of people in a way that has never been done before. What do you guys think?
Matt
left.
Sorry, I was on
change a
mute.
diaper.
Sorry, I got stuck talking to people in the chat, and then I was on mute. I think it's phenomenal. I think it was very well spoken, and I loved it.
One of the things I wanted to also mention from your podcast, Dave, is you guys were talking about Captain Cook circumnavigating and I guess that was based on another call from somebody who was saying, well, wouldn't the distance around Antarctica be much greater than we're told? And you guys mentioned, well, Captain Cook in his second journey clocked 60,000 miles going around the south. Here's one thing I think people forget about that is we're considering, you have to remember, these guys went down there, and so he clocked 60,000 miles, but he thought that he was on a sphere. So again, you have to remember that the distances traveled would be based off of what they thought that the sphere was shaped. So again, we don't even know how far they traveled. So I just wanted to point that out because I think people, may say, oh, he went 60,000 miles. Well, yes, he went 60,000 miles based on where he thought he was on a globe. If actually it was a flat Earth, he could have been traveling 80,000 miles. We don't know that. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I was just watching this deal. There's that guy Colin O'Brady, who's down in Antarctica.
Right.
He and I passed by. He was coming one way, I was going the other way.
Oh, you
while
waved?
I was down there. But he did a video on how his compass, you might as well not even have one while you're down there. And so, like you're saying, there is no telling how far they went or how fast they were going. There's no way they could tell if they thought they were on a ball. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people fail to realize that. I mean, imagine how difficult it would be to calculate your speed in water when you're just traveling with the currents and everything. And we're talking about late 1700s or so. There would be no way that they could calculate their distances other than known land distances. So say they went from New Zealand to South America or something like that. But that would be based on the numbers that they were given. So if they traveled that distance and said, oh, okay, we went this certain miles, we would have no idea how many miles that actually is. That's still true today. So.
I missed most of that because my internet shut down, but I think I got the gist of it, and I totally agree. I mean, how come no cruise, no person has circumnavigated Antarctica?
Well, some people have, but it takes... I saw that boat. The name of it is the Catharsis, or Catharsis 2, just recently went to break the record, and they circumnavigated Antarctica in a boat, supposedly, of course. But when you look at the speed, it took them 100 days to do it, or just short of 100 days, like 98 days or something. But I tracked that boat as it went through its little journeys, and it came back and says that it was averaging about 4 knots, which is ridiculous because when you go and look up the type of sailing yacht that is, it can go speeds of 25 knots easily, or even more. So what is the boat doing down there that it's only traveling 4 knots? That's not a very good speed for a yacht. But again, they're basing that off the known distance. So if the known distance around Antarctica is said to be whatever it might be, 14,000 miles, something like that, when they figure out the amount of time it takes to get, well, they just do the whole calculation for distance over time, and they get their speed. But again, if the distance is wrong, then the speed is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it really helps to have a benchmark that you're starting from, and if you're playing on a moving court, it's hard to tell where you stop and start.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, so there is people that said that they've circumnavigated it, but Dave, I totally agree with your statement about a cruise. Why not have a cruise that circumnavigates Antarctica? I've never heard of one.
Nope.
Nor have I heard of a cruise that goes from Australia or New Zealand to South America without going upwards and hitting all the mid-islands there and then dropping down and hitting other islands and taking an extremely long time. Or there's cruises that'll go up along, Singapore, Japan, around through Alaska, come down along the west coast of the United States, and then come along the west coast of South America. But they'll never go straight across the bottom, which should be a short path if it's towards the bottom of the globe, right?
And what about New Zealand to Santiago? You should be able to do that for lunch.
Yeah. Well, I think it would take a little longer than that, but it doesn't exist. I mean, there should be a cruise that just goes straight across, and there isn't one. And again, they'll always say, I always hear people tell me, oh, well, nobody wants to be out in the water that long, and they're too far away in case there's an emergency or a disaster. But again, I don't know how true that is. They've got enough boats to save people if there was some sort of disaster out there in the water. But again, these are just all excuses, and that's all we get. I'll take things ballers say for 200.
Nice transition.
Yeah. No, I thought that was a great show title because it gets overwhelming. Dave and I talked about it today with some of the Skype messages I get where people will just send me, I don't know, it looks like a small paper. It looks like a term paper for school or something. They just send this huge amount of text and in it ask me these 35 questions that they want answered about the flat Earth, and it just gets to the point where now I have to respond to them, and I say, go look at it yourself. I mean,
when I engage, I say, can you just give me one proof, not 10? I said just one, because if you give me 10, we're done. And they either come back with an insult or 37 proofs, which are all nonsense. One guy was going off about curvature. And he's like, why don't you guys get someone and go up with this MiG? They in Russia, they have this, you can fly in a MiG and you can see the curvature. And, and I put the challenge out for one of you guys to do it. It's like, how come they can't look at that video and see that the Earth not only is concave, it's convex and it's flat?
I don't know. That bothers me so much because I don't know how many videos we need to see where from one view, you've got the fisheye lens showing out the window. You know that the windows are curved, that they have a huge arc in them. And then sometimes you'll get that one little view, maybe it's looking out the back window where you can completely see that the Earth is flat and level right behind them. But again, this is a big thing for me because especially with people going up on these, Richard Branson flights, or if they take anybody up and do these parabolic flights, if they can do them much higher, like Richard Branson says he's going to do. Again, it all depends on what the windows look like and what the helmet looks like. I've shown video many times, maybe I need to do another video on it, showing astronauts putting on their helmets. And when you get that little view from the camera that shows through the astronaut's helmet, the entire scene is curved because that's what the glass is on the front of the helmet. So, I mean, that's why, Dave, a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard people say this before, if they told you, well, what would you do if you went up, if somebody sent you to space and you were able to look down and see the Earth below, what would you do if you saw a curve? And my question is always, well, what kind of helmet am I wearing and what kind of craft am I in? Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a great video that came out on what it looks like when you're looking down through a prism at a flat surface.
Oh, that's a great
video. Yeah, and I think Curious Jay sent it to me. And, it's possible that if they're able to get people up there, let's say, that, they may be fooling them as well.
I've often thought the same thing. I've really said before that if there was a craft that was able to be, I don't know, let's say it's 100,000 feet. I don't know. Well, I'm just giving an example, but you're looking through all that heavy atmosphere on the way down, and that's going to bend the light. And you might get the perspective that what you're looking at is a curve when it's not. Or at least you might see what is a curve, but you might think it's a sphere, which it's not. And I
sure,
think,
absolutely.
all the footage I've ever seen from high altitude balloons, from, Dwayne Kellum, we're not seeing that same kind of curve. We see it flat. Now, again, this is a tough one for people to understand. Dave, I think you explain it by saying a hula hoop, which, a hula hoop, oops, we'll talk about that when we get back from break. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon by Christine. Great.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot
issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction.
Future. We explore the mysteries of the universe and of the earth. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. We will dissolve the propaganda of dangerous people with dangerous plans for the planet. We will
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and if the sound was choppy in between that commercial, it was because I was testing something, so I do apologize, but trying to figure out if I can add my own commercials rather than listen to the TFR commercials during the breaks while we are simulcasting live on YouTube. So if the sound did cut out, that's actually a good thing. That means I can input my own little commercials there. So just letting people know there is no mistake. That was done on purpose. So anyway, let's continue on. What were we talking about before we went to break?
Wow. Question.
I will say, I've always said that I was watching the chat during the break, and I've always said that it's not a good chat unless someone mentions the Unabomber Manifesto, and I see that someone did, so we're good.
It's a good chat?
Yeah, it's a good chat.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. And I cannot remember what we were talking about before the break.
Well, I touched on how it's possible that there could actually be craft up there and people actually... Oh, it was hula hoop. That's what we were getting onto.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That is where we ended. That's the way Dave describes it. I've described it the same way, that we basically can see in a circle. And so even though a hula hoop is very flat, it's not a sphere. If you held that up around your neck and were kind of peering out towards the edge of it, the edge of that hula hoop would be in a circle, but the hula hoop itself is flat. So it's kind of the same notion for the idea of a flat Earth, that you can only see in a circle. That's just a fact. That's how it works. Your eyesight, your eye line is the radius of a circle. And so I could see people getting up there in one of these Richard Branson crafts and seeing that and having a curved lens and a curved window and a curved helmet. And before you know it, they come back and say, I saw the curvature of the Earth. But again, it's not a sphere. And I don't know how else to describe it. It's just I never see any footage from above that looks at all like a sphere. It always looks like a flat plane where off into the distance there is a limit to how far you can see.
It's also it's your mind programming. Robbie Davidson just did an interview in Forbes. Did you see it?
I did. I thought it was actually good.
It was a good interview, pretty good. The at the first half it was upsetting me a little bit, but overall it was good. But the reporter that did it was very courteous and asked Robbie if he had some images, and Robbie didn't know of any images that he could guarantee. I think this is the story, that he could guarantee were copyright free, and people like Forbes will not publish a photo unless they have permission. So of course they put the flying disc, the
Always, yeah.
Flat Earth Society flying disc.
Come on.
In the article. So we came up with the idea, and so far, alleged friends of Yahweh, Andrew Lanks, he produced some images and more, and a call out to any other graphic artists out there that can make an image that we can offer to the media when they interview one of us, to show them that the Earth is not floating in space, to have something that shows an extended Earth. But the reason I'm telling this story
is because
idea. One of the, what's that?
So it's a great idea. We need something like that.
We could just have
we're going to do that and then
something.
Yeah, submit them to info@the-Flat Earth Podcast, and we're going to gather them, and then I'll just have a folder on the website, and then anybody that does an article, an interview somewhere, you can send the link to that, and they can download the pictures, which will all be copyright free. But the reason I told the story is one of the pictures he gave is the flat Earth, and it's actually the flat Earth from my app, because Andrew did the artwork on the app, and it's a top-down view of it with the extended ice plane around it. But if you're not a flat earther, you look at it and you see a globe.
Right. That goes back to the story of my woke bumper sticker that my sister saw, and she goes, "Oh, I love that bumper sticker, but why do you have a globe on it?" I said,
right.
"What? That's
so it's the programming, it's the perception, that we've been told is how we see things. That demonstration Karen B did with the 4 moons, which one's convex, which ones are circle. One of them was convex, the other one's flat, and you can't tell because it's really in our heads. I guess what we see is 2-dimensional. It's not really 3-dimensional until you touch it.
Do I agree with that?
You're seeing a two-dimensional image in your head.
True.
Is it a three-dimensional image or a two-dimensional image?
No, it's two-dimensional. When you look out, it's like a picture plane. Basically, it's like how perspective works, that the image that you're seeing, sometimes to draw an image outside or something, they would set up like a piece of glass or a window and then set up like a piece of tracing paper and you would draw it. So what you're really seeing is two-dimensional.
Yeah, have you seen that picture where it shows something that it's drawn three-dimensional and the top and the bottom are actually the same color, but because you perceive it like a shadow, you actually see it as two different colors?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you've seen that, Jaron, right?
Yeah, there's so many of those, what are they called? Illusions, really.
Right, and they came from the Big Bang because the Big Bang happened and it conspired to deceive our senses.
It must have. Did a really good job, didn't it?
Amazing.
No, so were you going to continue on more, or do you just want people then to send ideas or images that they've created to info@theflatearthpodcast.com?
info@theflatearthpodcast.com. Images that you would like to see, like if someone's doing an article on Flat Earth and they want to pop a picture in there what the Flat Earth is. So instead of getting the turn up in space or the frisbee, in space, let's give them something good. So Andrew's already done a couple. I'd like to have 10 or 20 or 30, awesome images.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of talented graphic, computer artists out there, and also just paint one and take a good photo of it, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. And then Dave, whatever you get, pass it on to me and I'll make a little page on my website where people can go and pick those up as well.
Yeah, we'll put them everywhere, and we'll just make sure that people know that they are trademark, copyright-free images.
Because I think that's one of the hardest things for people to grasp is the idea that they always want to place this flat plane in space. It's just that they can't. We've all been taught that that's what the outer space is, and it's these vast distances nobody could possibly imagine in every direction. But really. I've always said, or I keep saying that I really think that the flat Earth or the plane of Earth is all that exists. And so there is nothing outside of it. There's stuff above it and things that orbit above it. But as far as things outside of it, if somebody asked me, Jaron, what's 50 million miles in that direction, my answer would be simple. It would be nothing. There's no such thing.
Does 50 million miles exist?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I don't think so. No, I mean, if you went 50 million miles that way, you'd really quickly just run out of space to go. But again,
does 50 million years exist?
50 million years? No, not yet. I can't tell you about the future, but
I don't think so.
No, that I struggle with that one, but I think that the Earth is young. I'm just somebody who looks at the evidence. I mean, I've always laughed at the fact of the oldest living tree is like 4,300 years old.
Everything I used to laugh at, I now believe.
Isn't that the truth? But doesn't it feel so much better?
It's just because that's another thing. Things Globers say for 200 is you just want to feel like more, that you're more superior, and that's totally not the truth. The truth is I want to know the truth, and it's totally mind blowing as you learn it. But you were saying earlier. People are waking up, and I've said it before. I just want to. It's so amazing when you see somebody wake up to the flat Earth, and then all of a sudden they can see everything else. They can't see chemtrails. They don't see 9/11.
Right.
They don't see any of this stuff, and then all of a sudden, waking up to the flat Earth is easier than waking up to those things because it's so provable. Things ballers say, there's no proof of the flat Earth. There's millions of proofs of the ball. Well, the opposite is true.
Yeah, that's how.
Once they all of a sudden see it, they can see these other things. They're like, oh my God, Building 7, Building 6. Oh my God.
That's how it was for me. Flat Earth was kind of my first conspiracy. And once I had that, it was like the key that unlocked the rest of them, right? And I can't imagine seeing those other conspiracies, kind of like you did, Dave, and then getting to Flat Earth. Like it must have been kind of crazy thinking, like, how does all this fit together? Like it seems so dark and sinister, right? But then you have Flat Earth, and it's like, oh, it's the umbrella that all these fall under.
Yeah, and that's what David always talks about, that he at first rejected Flat Earth heavily, and even banned,
everyone.
Yeah,
didn't we all have
people.
the same story?
No, I have a different story. Yeah, not for me.
I do too.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm one of the weird ones that kind of found it on my own, and it took me months. And I always remember. So Mark Sargent's video came out in February of 2015, and I believe that's when my first video came out. A few days after his video came out. But I was a flat earther that previous Thanksgiving, and Miss and I always remember that was the first time that we had kind of gone to my parents' house, or at least my mom's house, for Thanksgiving dinner, and we were sitting there and we felt so weird. We were like, what if we told somebody that we think the Earth's flat? We were so afraid that and that was the time where Mrs. started telling me, you need to make videos, on YouTube. And I just told her I can't. I'm searching YouTube and I'm not finding anybody talking about it like I want to talk about it. And it all started, and I really, a lot of it had to do with Eric Dubé's website, because that was the first time I'd ever seen the azimuthal equidistant map. And once I saw that, and for me, I always tell this story, but just weeks earlier, I had told my wife that she was crazy for just mentioning when we had decided that we were going to start from the beginning. We got so fed up with all the lies that we were finding in all of our research and all of our reading that we just said, you know what, let's build up our beliefs from the ground up and no longer bank on things. And I said, yeah, I totally agree. We need to start from the beginning. And then one of the first things out of her mouth was, do you think the Earth could be flat? And I called her an idiot. I said, no, what are you talking about? How do planes go around it? And I remember, even saying that now, I feel bad about it, because at the time I was really thinking that was a dumb statement, because I said, how could planes possibly go around it? She had flown to the east and gone to Germany. I had flown to the west and gone to the Philippines. I said, there's no way that the Earth could be flat. Don't even mention that. She said, I just thought that we were starting from the beginning and we were going to build up our beliefs. So, I thought that the Earth kind of looks flat. And I said, yeah, but it may look flat, but it can't be. How do planes go around it? So it wasn't until I saw, Eric Dubé's website and saw that map for the first time. And that really taught me that we are cornered by our preconceived beliefs. I had this presupposition belief that you can only have planes go around an Earth if it's a sphere. And so I didn't dismiss people right away. In fact, it took me a while to even get to the point where I was able to say it publicly or even come out and say what I thought. But I was building all this evidence, and I was looking into these old books and found, the stuff, basically starting with Eric Dubé's site, but he had a lot of links to different books and things like that I started reading. And all of a sudden I said, man, this could really be true. And then when I saw Mark Sargent's videos come out that February, all of a sudden it all started to click, and it kind of answered. Now, I was somebody that was into conspiracies before that, so it started to answer a lot of those other conspiratorial questions, and everything started to make sense. And then all of a sudden I went straight to the moon landings and said, okay, wait a second. And from there, everything fell into place, at least for me. But again, I don't think I don't even say that I know everything or I know all about that. I don't. So when people say, oh, you just want to know something that other people don't, that's not true. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel where I'm telling everybody everything that I research and find. What would be the point of that? I'm telling everybody, hey, here's something I found. Look into this. And that's really my goal, is to see more and more people. What is it, Paul on the plane that did the interview with the pilot recently?
That was great.
Yeah, and it's going to be stuff like that starts coming out over time.
That's the thing that ballers say, what, is every pilot in on it? Well, no, they're not, because they don't get it. But that story, if you guys haven't heard it, a pilot was saying another pilot came to him, or a group of pilots, and said, the Earth is flat. And he's like, wait, what do you mean? And they started looking at it, and then the pilots these are pilots that are flying every day he's bringing maps up there. He brought a globe into the cockpit with him and is tracking their flight. And it took him a year to really convince himself that, he's been living a lie and the Earth is flat and stationary. And that's a pilot, right. where people think that pilots would know. They don't know.
No, and it takes, the things that we're saying are going to make people think about it. And so you might be a pilot. You've always thought that you're flying over a sphere. All of a sudden you start hearing some of these videos. You still go out. You still, fly your planes. But as you do, I think your eyes will start opening. And it may take, like you said, Dave, it might take a year. It might take longer until somebody really feels okay with coming out and saying, it took me, 4 or 5 months. And I'm not even somebody in a high-profile job like that. At the time, I was working for myself running a bookstore. So it was very easy for me to come out and say it right away, but I was even afraid to do it after 5 months. It really took,
right. times are changing. There's so many people. Flat Earth isn't what it was 4 or 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even 2 years ago. It's way more accepted and willing. More people are willing to have a discussion. Now there are Mr. Smiths out there that just will never wake up, and you have to try to avoid them. But we all need to start thinking of different ways and using them to wake up, to introduce it to large groups of people that aren't flat earthers. Right now, everyone, we got 610 people in your chat. There's more in the other chat. They're all flat earthers. They all know. And the few that aren't flat earthers, they know the earth is flat. But the street activism that's going on is amazing. I want it to increase 100-fold within the year. That's how we're going to do it, because YouTube is hiding our information. Matt, you've got Woke Town. You're waking people up in different ways. How's that going?
It's going good. I wanted to comment on what Jaron said about this isn't something we're being stubborn over. Like, he had a question about plane route and being able to circumnavigate it, and then he saw the map and it was simple. Like, there are simple explanations out there for these problems that people see with this notion of flat earth. And what ends up happening as you look into it, you find simple answer after simple answer after simple answer, as opposed to the answers you find when you're researching the globular Helios nonsensical model, as Dave says. And it's like walking downhill instead of uphill. It's right. The answers come, and if you're open enough to look for them, they're all there. And yes, Woketown is going well, and that's the goal with Woketown is to break into these areas where people are just walking zombies, and not only wake people up, but once you wake them up, it's kind of helping them. All right, you're awake, now what?
Yeah, but people have been taught that information is given to you from a teacher, from somebody in authority. All you need to do is sit in a desk and somebody will hand you every answer to everything you ever wanted to know about the world. That's how we were all raised. And,
exactly.
It took me finding all these lies in what I was taught in school, and, every subject. I learned everything was a lie. Started to learn that the media was a lie. So when I started to realize that all that stuff was incorrect, then I was open to the fact of, I'm just going to review information and then make my own decisions up. And like you said, when I started looking for answers and not just taking the answer, if you look up, is Coriolis effect a force, or is it real? Of course, you're going to find some website that talks about it, and you're going to have a Wikipedia page that tries to explain it. And again, if I'm okay with just saying, oh, there's the answer, I don't need to look anymore, I can go and play football in the street, I can go watch a baseball game on TV, and that can be my life, and I can be completely content like that. That's some people. Hey, for me, I can no longer do that. There's no way.
Hey, you know what's amazing is I heard, before I was into conspiracies, there are a few awake people in my life that are going, sports are like the Roman Colosseums. It's to distract us. And again, as I said earlier, I laughed at that. But if you took sports out of the average person's conversation, just eliminated sports, would the world be silent?
It would be a lot different.
Everywhere I go, all people care about is sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
and now
weren't we all
sports?
Weren't we all one of those?
What's that?
Weren't we all that? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, we were. I wasn't even a huge sports fan, and I think about how much sports I talked about. I had season tickets to the Giants and the Jets, and it's crazy. But you go out and listen to conversations at parties or just gatherings of people. It's sports.
Yep.
And nonsense news.
It's just something for people to talk about so that they don't research, at least for me, the world that they live in. And they allow the people at the top to continue doing what they're doing. And what do? You spend your money on these sporting events where these athletes get paid $25 million a year to perform in front of you. And I used to be one of those people totally caught in that. I mean, I used to wake up every morning before work. I'd take my shower. I'd get in the car and I'd listen to sports radio on the way to work. I would work my day. I'd listen to sports radio on the way home. I'd get home, cook dinner, and then watch a baseball game on TV and go to bed. That was my life, and it was set there on purpose for me. I mean, there's no doubt that that's exactly what they want, because if you do that and you're locked into that kind of world, there's no way you can research anything. That's why when my buddy came and told me, hey, I think 9/11 might be an inside job, I told him, don't talk to me again about that. I said, you're crazy. Because that would, and that took him actually going and researching that. When I heard that, I was like, this guy's insane. Why would he even say that? I've got baseball games to watch. I've got work to do. So it's the last thing on your mind. And it really takes somebody who's looking for the truth, who can open their mind and just say, okay, let me look at the world and take it as it's presented rather than as it's forced on me through the mainstream media. It's just so sad. The mainstream media can say anything that they want, and the whole world will believe it tomorrow. That's pretty upsetting.
Yeah. Totally agree. And I'm as guilty as anybody is being obsessed with the sports world. I can't tell you how many hours I wasted, not just playing, but watching. I mean, my whole life I was obsessed with it to the point where nothing else could come in. Like, and to comment on, talking about people say that you're supposed to learn things in school. I saw an awesome meme the other day. It said, like, if we started sending our kids to school to learn to walk, in 50 years, we would think if they didn't go to school, they wouldn't be able to walk.
Right. That's a great point. No, it's so true, and it's just schooling is, man, what a mind f that has been for everyone, because again, you're just teaching all the children the same thing. You're not rewarding people who think outside the box. I mean, think about the way that the grade system works and the way the testing works, that it's all standardized tests and you have to pass these tests. So the only people that get through and move up are the ones who follow directions exactly, who do what they're told, who don't ask questions.
Memorize and regurgitate.
Right. They don't think outside the box. And really, the people who think outside the box are the ones who discover the new things. Think of Tesla. Think of people like that that thought differently than everyone, and that's how you really excel. Well, they don't want anybody thinking differently. If you think differently, you'll go to the principal's office. If you question the things that you're taught, if you question the science or question the history that you're taught in school, you'll go by the wayside. So it really filters out any of the people that think differently. People like Eric Dollard and these other guys that went against science and said, no, I think this is different. They just get shunned from the community. And again, the world is exactly as you would expect if that was the case. So
it's unbelievable how people are so into sports. I was booked to be on a sports show called the Bartool Sports. It's a big sports podcast, and these guys talk sports. And I was going to be on it tomorrow, and I started listening to it today. And these guys it's all sports. They know all these stats. They know every single thing. It's like I didn't even know there was that much information that anybody could possibly know. And all of a sudden, in the 11th hour, they said, we're taking the interview we want to do in another direction. And they bailed. They bailed.
I don't doubt that at all. Real quick, I just want to mention to everybody that we will be taking calls the second half. So you'll have Matt and myself and David ready to answer your calls. We'll also... Yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, we'll also go through the super chats, talk about those. We also want to, when we get back from break, we'll talk about Logan Paul's documentary that's coming out on Tuesday. So I just want to mention all those things. We do have a few minutes, so go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say, do we want to talk about Logan Paul and a little strategy to try to help, to guide the narration there?
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about that right when we get back from break. But first, I wanted to tell people that, if you want to call in and get in line, that phone number is 213-233. Now I lost the phone number. 3998, that's right. Or 1-866-26-TRUTH. So if you call now, you'll probably... get to talk to us if you have any great questions or anything. Also, if you have an Android phone and you want to have the Flat Earth Sun and Moon clock for free, if you call in with a very good question and then let us know that you have an Android phone, we'll probably take your email address and then David can possibly gift that app to you. Dave, is that true?
I can. I have some codes that I can give out for Android for those of you that are in need. But I assume that every single person listening has the app already.
Wow, that would be pretty impressive.
That'd be nice.
And you've gotten rich and you haven't told me about it, I think is what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, so go ahead and call us if you want. But yeah, we're going to talk about Logan Paul. I think Dave's got some good ideas about that, which we will talk about. But the other thing, David, I thought you guys were talking about that was interesting. Well, we won't really talk about that yet. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. I wanted to talk about that. I've got a lot of things on my list that we didn't get to in this first hour like we were supposed to. I'll just mention real quick that my Amazon link, as of now, if you're using that, you're not contributing to me. Oh, we were going to talk about Owen Benjamin, too. I was going to talk about that. But, yeah, so unfortunately, it's the same kind of thing that happened to Owen Benjamin, that the last 2 months of my Amazon link, I will not be receiving any money for that. Doesn't look like they're going to be giving me my affiliate account back, so I'm going to have to say stop using that Amazon link until you hear me say differently. Pretty sad, huh?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Owen, that's just so amazing. They demonetized him, and then all of the super chats that he got for the last 2 months, he doesn't get.
Yeah. It makes sense now when I hear that why those. Oh, by the way, if you guys want to watch the second half, you're going to need to click the link in the description. Also, we will spam the chat, the YouTube chat, with that link, so you can head over to Ginger Sugarbush's channel. I was going to try and get that in. We'll talk when we get back from the break because we got the break coming up here. We'll see you guys on the other side. This is Jeranism on an Arrow.